Hey guys, so today we're going to do lesson 4, ordering rational numbers. So if you have your workbook, take it out and turn it to page 33. And this is what you should say. We're going to do 4.1, which is going to be the warm-up. How do they compare? So you have a bunch of problems here, and you have to put the symbols greater than, less than, or equal to compare the numbers. So pause the video and answer those, and then come back and I'm gonna put the answers up. Okay, so the first ones are pretty basic, so I just rewrote these onto the whiteboard. Okay, so 12 and 19, 12 is less than 19. Now you have 212 and 190. 212 is greater than 190. You have 15 and 1.5. So we know that 15 is a whole number, so the decimal place always goes at the end of the number. So you have 15 really compared to 1.5 here. So 15 is greater than 1.5 or 1.5. Then you have 9.02 and you have 9.2. So here we have a tenths place and a hundredths place, and here we only have a tenths place. So when we did decimal, some of you like to add the 0 to have the same amount of places. So you have 9.02 and 9.20. So 9.02 is less than 9.20. 6.050. So we have tenths, hundredths, thousandths. 6.05 only tenths, hundredths. You could add that 0 onto the end. And this one is equal to each other. It's the same number. So now we have a decimal and a fraction. So we have 0.4 and 9/40. Now 0.4 is really 4/10, if you think about it. So this one, 0.4 or 4/10, is greater than 9/40. So here the next one is 19/24 and 19/21. So the numerators are both the same. So really we're thinking of, is 24 or is 21? Which one has a bigger fraction part? So the less parts that we have, the bigger the pieces. So 21 has the less parts, so the pieces are going to be bigger. So 19/21 is going to be the larger fraction. So 19/24 is less than 19/21. And the last one, 16/17 and 11/12. You could cross multiply to see which one is bigger. So if I cross multiply, I do 17 times 11 and I get 187. And then I do 12 times 16 and I get 192. So 192 is larger than 187. So 16/17 is larger than 11/12. Okay, so that was the warm-up. So the next part of today's lesson is, you could look right under that page on page 33. And it's 4.2, it's ordering rational number cards. So I attached onto your lesson for today, it's a master's page. So I printed it out and I just, and I cut them all out. So your cards look like this. If you don't have access to a printer, that's okay. You can either just watch what I do, or you could just open up the cards and just write them on different pieces of paper. So like all of these are on one big sheet. You could just write them out and then cut those up. So you could find an easier way to do it. So for this, we're going to be, you have two sets of cards. The first set of cards are positives and the second set of cards are negatives. And basically what you're doing is you are ordering them. You're putting them into a big number line. So I'll start it off and then I'll show you how to do it. If you want to pause it and print out that paper, cut them out and then come back, that's fine. Or if you want to pause it and write the cards out, you could do that too. Okay, so the first number I have is 2. So I'm just going to put 2 right there. And then I have 1, and we know these are positive, so 1 and 2. I have 4. This is the easy part because I can very easily just put them where they belong. I have 3. And I have 0. Now we know 0 is going to be that middle. So anything to this side, to the right side, is positive, and anything to the left side is negative. So these are not going to be too difficult to do. I just want to show you a couple of tricky ones before I show you how to do the whole thing. So 1/4. So it's a positive number, but we know 1/4 is smaller than 1, but it's bigger than 0. So in our number line, 1/4 is going to go in between the 0 and the 1. Now we have 5 here, and then we have 5.5. So I'm just lining all of these up in the order that they go. Now a couple of the other ones here, so like for example, we have 9/8. Now if you weren't sure what to do for 9/8, we could just divide 9/8 out. So if I look on my whiteboard and 9/8, we know that this goes down like this, and it's a division problem, right? So 8 goes into 9 one time. I subtract it. 9 minus 8 is 1. So I get 1 and 1/8 for my answer. So 9/8 is 1 and 1/8. So when I go to my number line, it has to be bigger than 1 because it's 1 and 1/8, but then smaller than 2. So that's where it would go. Okay, so if you have the cards, I want you to pause the video and line the rest of just the set 1 up, the positive ones, and then I'll show you how it's going to look like. Okay guys, so this is what the whole thing would look like. So 0, 1/4, 1, then you have 9/8, 2, 2.5, 3, 4, 5, 5.5, 6, 7, 7.5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, 16, and you could see up all the way to 100 was the last number. That one should have been an easy one. Now there was this one, it was 8/3. Now that's improper fraction, so I divided it out. Now when I divided it out, I got 2 2/3. So if we look, 2 2/3, so I know it's bigger than 2, but then I have 2.5 here. If I can't figure out which one is bigger, I can divide it out by using decimals. So if I put the 8 down, I put a decimal here, put a decimal up here, and just add zeros. Now if I keep dividing it out, I would get 2.666, and it kept repeating. So if I look back on my number line, 2.6 compared to 2.5, 2.6 would go in that spot right there. Okay, so now we have our negative numbers that we need to put on our number line. Now as you are doing this, I want you to think of how are you going to place negative numbers compared to placing positive numbers. So our 0 is our middle ground, our positives are on one side. Where do our negatives go? And then the numbers that you already place, how can you use those to help you place new numbers? So I'll start you off again. So my first one is -5. So -5 I'm going to put like right there, but I have -1 here. Now on the other side, you're still going to be counting up, but it's going to be the opposite direction. So -1 is right after 0, and you keep going to counting up that way. So -2, -3, -4, -5, but it's just going in the opposite direction. Okay, so if I have -2, it would go right next to -1. -3 would go right after that. Then we have -5. And then I have -9. Now I have -2.5 here. So that would go in between the 2 and the 3. So it would be -1, -2, -2.5, then -3. It's counting in order, but it's just going in the opposite direction. Okay, so pause the video and get the rest of the negative numbers on your number line, and I'll show you what it looks like after. All right, guys, so at 0, and then it was -1/4, -1, -9/8, and we had positive 9/8 too on this side. So it's, see, positive 9 over 8 and then negative 9 over 8. It's going to, they're the opposite. So it's going to be in the same spot. It's in between the 1 and the 2, but here it's in between the negative 1 and the negative 2. Negative 2.5, negative 3, negative 5, negative 5.5, negative 7, negative 7.5, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative 22, negative 22.5, and negative 23. So you could see your number line goes in order, but on the right side of the 0, it's all going up that on positives. Left side of the 0, it's still counting up, but in the opposite direction. I have to add a second video because these are too big. So I want you to stop this video. I'm gonna stop it now. And then I'm gonna add a video labeled number 2 for the second part of this lesson.